if every NFL team could only keep two players, who would it be? Starting with the Buffalo Bills, it would obviously be Josh Allen. They would keep Josh Allen. Now, the second player they would keep gets interesting. We've got a few options. We've got Deion Dawkins, 31 years old. You've only got him under contract for 2 more years, but he is an elite pass protector and blindside protector for Josh Allen. Spencer Brown, younger tackle, 4 years younger. You've got him under contract for 2 more years. Then you have Deion Dawkins, so that gets a little dicey. Do you take the more elite tackle who is older, who's more expensive? You also have Gregory Rousseau, who is a young pass rusher. You've got him under contract for 5 more seasons. Well, 4 if you don't include this season. So it's between those 3 for the second place. I would go Deion Dawkins. I would keep Allen. I would keep Dawkins. Look, when you've got an elite quarterback, you got to keep him happy. You got to keep him comfortable and safe. I would go Allen and Dawkins. Now for the Miami Dolphins, we're going to stick in the AFC East. Look, there's not a lot of talent on this roster. I'm going to be honest. This team does not look hot. If they could get rid of Tua for nothing, if they could cut him and have no cap hit, if they could trade him for just a 7th-round pick, they would do it in a heartbeat. I don't think Tua has any value. He's probably got negative value. I think it's Waddle. You definitely keep Waddle. He's a young, talented guy who is exciting. He can sell tickets. And other than that, I think the next most valuable asset on this Dolphins team is this year's first-round draft pick. It's crazy to say it. You know, when I was recording this video, I was really thinking about players. But is there any player on this roster other than Jalen Waddle who's more valuable than their first-round draft pick this year? I don't think so. I think they would get rid of if the option was keep this year's first-round draft pick or get any of these players other than Waddle, and even Waddle, I don't think this team has much in the talent department. On to the New England Patriots. Look, it's obvious it's Drake May. Drake May is similar to that Josh Allen. Young guy, under contract for the next 4 seasons if you include the 5th-year option. Now, who is going to be the next guy? That is the question mark. Look, you've got Will Campbell, who's in consideration. Young left tackle. You're going to have him for 5 more seasons. You've got Christian Gonzalez at cornerback. I'm actually going to go a different route. Although I think it's close between Campbell and you could go Campbell, you could go Gonzalez. I would probably go Vrabel. I think the combination of May and Vrabel is going to keep this team at least formidable. I don't think it's enough to take him to the Super Bowl. I think you need elite talent around May and elite talent for Vrabel to coach, but I think the combination of those two is extremely valuable. And on to the New York Jets, and this one's going to be tough. I will admit this one is going to be tough. Look, you've got, looking at this team, you probably got to go, you can't go Breece Hall because he's not under contract for very long. Do you go Garrett Wilson? I mean, none of these quarterbacks, you've got 2 quarterbacks at the top of your cap hit that aren't even good. I guess you probably go Garrett Wilson. I don't know. Do you go Garrett Wilson and Jermaine Johnson? Maybe. Do you go Garrett Wilson and Olu Fashanu? Probably this year's first-round draft pick, similar to the Dolphins. I guess it's got to. Honestly, it's probably this year's first and second-round draft pick is more valuable than anything on this roster. Complete dumpster fire. They've got no talent. Now, they did just trade away some of their talent, so that definitely makes it a little bit different. But overall, their first-round draft picks. Baltimore Ravens, pretty obvious. It's Lamar Jackson, and it is Kyle Hamilton. Look, you've got one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. You're obviously keeping him. Kyle Hamilton's a Swiss Army knife on defense. He can play linebacker. He can play cornerback. He does it all. Kyle Hamilton's versatile. There's not even really a debate on the Ravens who 1 and 2 is. On the Cincinnati Bengals, I think this one is also pretty straightforward. Look, Trey Hendrickson's being paid the most. I think it's pretty obvious the most valuable player is Joe Burrow. You could get 4 or 5 first-round picks for him if you trade him this offseason. And the number 2 most valuable player, even with the recent on-field issues spitting on Jalen Ramsey, it's got to be Jamar Chase. There are some other top-end talent on this team. Orlando Brown's a great left tackle. Trey Hendrickson's a decent pass rusher. T. Higgins is elite, but those guys are not on the same level as a Joe Burrow and as a Jamar Chase. So once again, the Bengals are pretty straightforward. Now on to the Cleveland Browns. This team should be interesting. Myles Garrett, it's clear it's Myles Garrett. And outside of Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward's a great cornerback, but do you really want the two building blocks of your team to be on the defensive side of the ball? Probably not. Now, on the offense side of the ball, well, on the defense side of the ball, again, you could go Mason Graham. Once again, do you kind of the same issue with Denzel Ward? Do you really want two defensive guys? Now, from a skill position standpoint, Jerry Jeudy, no. Njoku, no. Teller and Bettino, no. It's probably going to be this year's first-round draft pick. It would be Garrett, and then this year's first-round draft pick, which will probably be top 5, is their most valuable asset. On the Pittsburgh Steelers, T.J. Watt, definitely the most valuable asset, up there in consideration for the best defensive player in the league, with a Kyle Hamilton, with a Myles Garrett, with a Patrick Surtain. So it's obviously T.J. Watt. Now, in terms of the rest of the team, Aaron Rodgers, it can't be him. He's only under contract for 1 more year. You could go DK Metcalf, and honestly, you probably do have to go DK Metcalf. Look, is Jalen Ramsey better? Is Cam Hayward better? Is Highsmith better? Probably. But DK Metcalf is the anchor to your offense. He's really the only explosive-ish player. And look, when you get rid of Aaron Rodgers, and even with Aaron Rodgers, this team is T.J. Watt and DK Metcalf dependent. And I don't know what these outfits are going on here. This is team who's got some wild ads. And we're going to go to the Houston Texans. And I think this one is also pretty straightforward. It's going to be Stingley and Stroud. You could go Anderson. Anderson's an elite defensive end, but you've got Hunter. Well, in this scenario, you only get to keep 2, so kind of irrelevant. But I would probably take Stingley over Anderson. Definitely Stroud. You're definitely keeping Stroud. But it's probably Stingley. Probably Stingley with Stroud. On to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, this one is going to be interesting because obviously everybody thinks Jonathan Taylor is the best thing since sliced cheese, and he is an elite running back, no doubt. But, I think you got to go Daniel Jones first. Daniel Jones is the quarterback. You got to keep him around, especially trading those 2 picks for Sauce Gardner. And I think you got to go Quentin Nelson. Look, I think Quentin Nelson is more valuable to this team than Jonathan Taylor. Number one, he's getting paid more. So, the team obviously, they expect him. They just value him more because they're monetarily paying him more. But I would go Jones and Nelson. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor is very valuable, but you can't really nudge him over Daniel Jones. We've seen who's more valuable. And, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not Pittman. It's definitely not any defensive player. So, yeah. And trying to find the Jacksonville Jaguars. Alrighty. Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't really think Lawrence has any value. I view it the same way as Tua. I don't think he's all that relevant. I think you would keep Josh Allen. Both Josh Allens get kept in this scenario. The Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, and the Jacksonville Jaguars, Josh Allen. Now, who is the next guy that gets kept? I'd probably go... It's between Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter. I'm going to go Brian Thomas. Although Travis Hunter has more draft capital invested in him, I would go you keep Hines Allen, you get the solid defensive end, and then you get the solid wide receiver and build around that. And on to the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans don't have much talent. Obviously, this team is a dumpster fire. I think you probably got to keep Cam Ward. It's kind of obvious. Look, he's the quarterback. He's got to succeed. He's got some value as a number 1 overall draft pick. And outside of Cam Ward, I think it'd probably be Jeffrey Simmons. He's a Walmart version of Chris Jones. Maybe J.C. Latham, but I don't think he's all that impressive. Maybe Kevin Zeichler, once again. Probably not going to be keeping guards unless they're studs like Quentin Nelson. Now on to the AFC West with the Broncos. This one's going to be straightforward. You're going to keep Bo Nix. You're going to keep Patrick Surtain. There isn't really a debate on this. I don't think Bo Nix is great, but you would keep those two, so no point in even really discussing this team. Kansas City Chiefs, you're keeping Mahomes, duh. Now, you got Chris Jones, who is up there in age, but he is under contract for 3 more additional seasons. Creed Humphrey, is he on par with Chris Jones? I would probably say Chris Jones is a better player, but Creed Humphrey is younger, and they're both under contract for 3 more years. You got Karlaftis. He's under contract for a while. It's tough. I would probably go. I'd go Chris Jones. I'd go Chris Jones and Mahomes. I think those are the 2 most valuable assets. Las Vegas Raiders. This team doesn't really have a ton of talent. You're definitely keeping Max Crosby. That's a give me, no doubt about it. Now, you're not keeping Geno. Geno has negative value. You would try to get rid of him today if possible. Do you keep Genty? I don't really think Genty's got a ton of value, especially with how much money he's making. He's probably not a very sought-after running back. I think you'd keep Bowers, probably Bowers and Crosby. Not a great building block to go off of. And last team, the Los Angeles Chargers in the AFC. You obviously keep Herbert. And yeah, you're going to keep Herbert and Derwin James. Yeah, it would be Herbert and Derwin James. No real debate there. Now on to the NFC, the Dallas Cowboys. Although I'm not a big fan of Dak Prescott, I don't really think he's all that great. You got to keep him. He's the quarterback. He's feasible. And then you'd keep CeeDee Lamb. Now, if Micah Parsons was on this team, it'd be interesting. You'd have to decide between Dak, CeeDee, and Micah. And in that case, I think you probably keep Dak and Micah. I think those would be the 2 you keep. But in this case, it would be Dak and CeeDee. Now, on to the New York Giants. We are definitely keeping Jackson Dart, if we can find him on here. Where's he at? I might be blind. I don't see Jackson Dart. Okay, well, regardless, he's on the team. Maybe they took him off because he's injured or something, but it would be Jackson Dart. And then it gets interesting. Do you go with Malik Neighbors? Maybe. Do you go with Brian Burns? He's looking very good. Do you go with a younger pass rusher, Abdul Carter? It's tough. I would probably go Neighbors and Dart, although it would stink to lose Brian Burns. But you could also go with Abdul Carter. Very tough. Very, very tough decision there. Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this one is very interesting because a lot of people don't even think Jalen Hurts is the main bus driver on this team. I would keep Hurts. I think Hurts is a top 10, top 8 type quarterback. I think you got to put respect on Hurts' name. Now, offensively, are you going to keep a Saquon Barkley, or are you going to keep a Jalen Carter / Jordan Davis / Quinyon Mitchell, maybe an A.J. Brown, definitely not Devontae Smith? Very, very tough. A lot of great players here. Zach Bond's also looking very good. I would probably go Jalen Carter. I would go Jalen Hurts and Jalen Carter. Maybe Quinyon. I would take Quinyon Mitchell over Saquon Barkley. I'm not a big running back guy. I don't think they're all that important, but I do think those guys are all very close in talent. So you could go well in any direction. Washington Commanders. Obviously, it is Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is the quarterback. And you probably got to go Larry Tunsil, although he's only under contract for 2 more seasons. Terry McLaurin. You probably can't go Terry McLaurin. Can't go Von Miller. I think it's got to be Jaden Daniels and Larry Tunsil. On to the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears, it is going to be... You got to go Caleb Williams, and then do you go with Ben Johnson? Because other than Caleb Williams and the roster as a whole, is there any elite talent that would be more valuable than Ben Johnson to this team. Is there really anybody? I don't think so. I think it's got to be. I mean, where's their elite cornerback at? I'm blanking on his name. Where's their cornerback at? Let me go. Let me go in alphabetical order so I can see him. Okay, well, I would go Caleb and Ben Johnson. Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions, this is actually very tough because you got Jared Goff who's getting up there in age. He's very highly paid. I think you got to go Hutchinson, and do you go St. Brown or do you go Gibbs or do you go Penei Sewell? I think this team is built off the lines. I think it's built off the toughness. I would go Penei Sewell and I would go Aiden Hutchinson. But you could go Goff and you could go St. Brown. You could go Gibbs and I mean a lot of great talent on this team. A lot of great talent on this team. Green Bay Packers is pretty straightforward. It's definitely going to be Love and it's going to be Micah Parsons. No one else really even is in discussion. Those are the two key pieces on this team. And we'll go to the Vikings. Minnesota Vikings, you're not going to keep J.J. McCarthy. He's not playing all that well. I think it would be Justin Jefferson, and I think it would be Kevin O'Connell. No one else on this team really jumps out to me as a super. I mean, Christian Darrisaw is pretty solid, but I think Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson are two most valuable pieces on this team. Atlanta Falcons. Now, this is tough because Michael Penix hasn't shown us much. Bijan, I would probably go Bijan and Jesse Bates. I'd probably go Bijan and Jesse Bates. I think those are the two best Falcon players, but team's kind of looking rough. Carolina Panthers. You're definitely keeping Bryce Young. He's your franchise quarterback. You've got a few options. You can go Derek Brown here. You can go J.C. Horn's not that good anymore. Are you going to go Tetairoa McMillan? Honestly, probably. It probably would be Bryce Young and Tetairoa McMillan. No one else really jumps out to me other than Derek Brown, but I'd probably take Ted over Brown with his youth and much less expensive contract. On to New Orleans Saints, and it is insane that Taysom Hill's the highest cap hit. I didn't even know that. Now, you're not going to keep Cam Jordan. No sense in that. He's only under contract for one more season after this. Alvin Kamara, an older running back, only under contract for 2 seasons. Demario Davis is older. Chase Young is underwhelming. I guess it's got to be Chris Olave. I mean, he's only under contract for 2 more years. He's not that good to begin with. Yeah, it's going to be Chris Olave and this year's first-round draft pick. I mean, nothing else is really valuable. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we know we're keeping Baker. The real question is who else are we going to keep? You got Tristan Wirfs in the discussion. You got Vita Vea in the discussion. You got Emeka Egbuka. You got to consider him. I'm probably going to go Tristan Wirfs. Look, you got the quarterback. You got to protect him. I think that would be who they keep. Arizona Cardinals. Now this one's interesting because I think Kyler Murray is not going to be part of the team, but I think he still is the most valuable asset. He probably could net you 2 first-round draft picks, and you would not have to pay any of his contracts. So I think it would be Kyler Murray, and then the next most valuable guy I think is going to be Marvin Harrison. Los Angeles Rams. You got Matthew Stafford, who's getting up there in age. I don't really feel comfortable picking Stafford with his age. You got to go Puka for sure, and you got to go Jared Verse. You get an elite defensive end. You get an elite young wide receiver. Both young. I think that's the way to go. Puka and Jared Verse. Could go Stafford. I don't love it. I don't love it at all. San Francisco 49ers. A lot of older talent on this team. You got Trent Williams, got Kittle. The quarterback situation is tough. I don't think you would keep either quarterback. I don't think they're that much above replacement level. I don't think you keep Kittle. He's an older tight end. He's getting paid a lot of money. You don't keep Williams, obviously. I guess you go McCaffrey. And where's Nick Bosa at? How much is he making? Probably on IR. I think you got to go McCaffrey and Bosa. I think that makes the most sense. And the Seattle Seahawks, although I am not the biggest Sam Darnold fan, I cannot lie. He has performed very well this season. And you got to go with... Do you go with Witherspoon? Do you go with Tariq Woolen? Probably JSN. I think you got to go Darnold and JSN.